Hey everyone, welcome back to Reading with Tatiana. I'm doing my July wrap ups for 2024. I was able to read three books and listen to one book, and I would say I had a pretty good month when I look back on my notes. To be honest, I was in the middle of a move like all of July, so I'm surprised that I was able to even get through four books. But I think I just sneaked it in whenever I could. August so far isn't doing that well. That's why I'm filming and uploading this like halfway through August. Usually I kind of do it earlier on. But moving is hard. Like I know everyone does it, and I've done it before between cities, but like from like a different province to a new province, or from like my old city to a different country. But I've never moved within the city, and it's honestly, I think, harder because when you move within the city, you keep most of your stuff. So you have to pack everything. You also have to unpack everything, and then my old space, my new space is on paper the same. There's two bedrooms, one bathroom, that kind of stuff, and kind of same square footage, but it's not exactly the same layout, and things don't have the exact same place they used to belong to. So it's just figuring out where things go, and also my old place I was renting, so it was a bit of a nicer and newer place that had central air conditioning, but the new place which I bought and own, um, because I have a personally smaller budget. It's an older building and there's no central air conditioning. So also moving, packing, unpacking in hot summer weather was also very painful. But I did it. So I think August, unfortunately, when I do my wrap ups in September, will be a very low reading month. And in September, I'm actually traveling for a bit. So probably also low one. Or I don't know, maybe this is my slow decline from reading. I really hope not. But yeah, so anyways, here's my uh, July wrap ups, and I'm going to end my ramble. So the first book I read was Housemates by Emma Copley Eisenberg. I gave this a 3 out of 5, and this book I enjoyed because it was a book club book, and I would not have probably read it if it wasn't for recommendation. The funny thing is, I think everyone in my book club hated this book. I give it a 3, which maybe is generous. So basically, this book talks about these women in their early 20s, and it's definitely a coming of age situation. One person is a up and coming, or not up and coming, she is a photographer, and she is able to go with her housemate or her roommate on this trip where her housemate is going to go with her, be her assistant, and also write captions for all of these photos that she will take. And they kind of have this relationship that develops, and nothing really happens, but also like everything happens. This book is set in a time, I think it was like in like the 2010s, 15, or 2016, I think, during the election of Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. So this book, and as you're doing a road trip across the U.S. and taking photos of all these people and hearing these stories, this book is definitely like it touched on a lot of different social justice issues happening in the U.S. during this time, and also our two protagonists are queer women. So it does a lot of that. So I can see when you read it that you're like, wow, you can feel seen or validated, especially if you're a part of these communities or if you live in the US as an American person. But I think for me, it was a flop because she touches on a lot of these subjects but never goes into a deep dive into any of them. So I felt like so much happened, but also like nothing happened. And then also, um, there were so many fine details of this book that I felt were kind of annoying and very insufferable. But I think if I read this book when I was a lot younger, in my early 20s, that I'd be, wow, this book is so symbolic and so beautiful, and I would have loved it. But I think as someone in my mid 30s, it was just a flop. I still gave it a 3 though, because it is my favorite genre where it's kind of slice of life. So I loved it, but also it was a bit too aimless. I don't know. It was a very strong 3, and I don't know how this book makes me feel. The next book I read was also a book club book, Bandit Queens by Parini Shroff. I gave this a 4 out of 5, and also I want to say this is why it's important to do book clubs, because if I wasn't part of any book clubs, I probably wouldn't read it all. So I don't know, I'm just in the book reading funk, which I feel like I've been saying every wrap up for this year. Anyways, Bandit Queens, I quite enjoy it. It's set in India, and basically the protagonist, she lives in this rural village where it's a society where it's very men run the house, women just stay at home, women have babies, and so 5 years ago her husband just up and left, and everyone in the village kind of thought that she had murdered her husband, and that's kind of like um, the image that she has. And so basically, the story starts with a woman who's been abused by her husband comes up to our main character and is like, "Hey, can you help me murder my husband?" So this book I really enjoy because I don't know. I just love. I guess it's not like factual, obviously, but I think the author, she's an American Indian woman, and I think obviously all the stories and all the anecdotes and the characters are based off people she knows back in her family's home country in India. So I felt it was kind of like historical fiction, and I really enjoyed it. It really personified this rural village and all these different characters, and the book was quite slow to start with, but it really builds up, especially in the last 70 pages. And I felt it was like all these things that happened in the last 70 pages is like kind of a comedy of errors, and I really enjoyed it. And I think if you want to read a book about learning about this different area of the world and about these women, I think it's worth reading. The next book I read was also a book club book. So again, shout out to book clubs. It's called Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. I gave it a 4 out of 5. This one, I had very mixed reactions about reading it because I did not enjoy reading it, if that makes sense. But then I was intrigued by the premise, and then once the book ended and I took time to reflect on it, I actually really, really enjoyed the book. It's definitely a very slow burn. So basically, the premise is one of the characters, she is like some marine researcher, and she goes into the submarine to do a deep dive into the deep ocean, and then the submarine loses contact, and we hear her experience of being in a submarine with her two submarine, I guess, co-workers or fellow researchers in that experience. And then the other side of the story is 6 months later, the submarine actually resurfaces, and no one knows what happened to these people for those 6 months. And basically, this woman, she goes home to her partner, her wife, and then we hear the wife's side of having her partner come back from the ocean and her recovering from this experience. And all these weird things happen. I don't want to spoil it, but I do want to say this book is in the horror genre and a bit of magic realism. And basically, we have to understand what happened during 6 months under the deep ocean, and also what is happening to this woman now that she's back on the surface of the earth. It's just an interesting book, and it talks about the ideas, for me, my interpretation, about the ideas of grief, the ideas of letting go, and ideas of what it's like to lose someone. I don't know, I really enjoyed this book. The last book I listened to, an audiobook, is Down the Drain by Julia Fox. This is a memoir. She narrates it herself, and that's why I listened to it. And also, it was so clutch listening to a book while I was unpacking and packing and that kind of stuff. So I gave it a 5 out of 5. I personally knew nothing about Julia Fox except that she was Kanye West's girlfriend at some point in the past few years. So I just knew like this very small sliver of her, but a friend of mine recommended this memoir because I'm a bit of a pop culture head, and she said that this is a really fun book to listen to. So I listened to it and I loved it. I love Julia Fox because she really gave me a perspective of people that would have no interaction with. She had a very rough upbringing in New York, and she also got involved with a lot of people who use drugs or people who got into trouble in her elementary and high school years. And I definitely had no exposure to that, and this gave me a lot of empathy for people that maybe I see having a hard time in their life with drug use or living in the streets and that kind of stuff. And I really love Julia Fox's very candid retelling of her life so far. It made me really think that, people are just doing the best that they can, and sometimes that isn't that great, but that's just their life. So I think it's worth listening to, even if you don't know who she is, and just listening to her experience from coming up to being a celebrity. And I say celebrity in quotes because she knows she's a celebrity objectively, but she doesn't feel like she's a celebrity. She just feels she's like this person that's just doing what she enjoys, and other people are consuming it. So yeah, I really enjoy it, and I really hope that she can find peace and happiness for the rest of her life, because she had very tumultuous life so far. Thanks for watching until the end of my July wrap-ups. I felt that was all over the place because I'm currently all over the place. I actually thought about not filming it and just maybe not filming a wrap ups for the rest of the year and just do a top 10. But I feel like I want to be accountable because, as you know, I used to film all reviews of all books I read, and I've already cut down, and I feel like I owe it to myself to keep myself accountable and just do once a month, just to do these wrap ups because it's not that hard. Anyways, thanks for watching until the end, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.